51% to the stalker, and 49% to the hotel. And then Hulk Hogan, he won a bunch of money. That was a little different because it was a sex tape, and some internet media got hold of it and published it on the internet. He got a bunch of money. I think it's going to be reduced, I think, personally, because I think it's ridiculous, but we'll see. All right, these are defenses. So if somebody's being sued, this could be a defense to get them off the hook. Assumption of the risk. You own a golf course. Somebody's playing golf, gets beamed by a golf ball. Your comeback, if you get sued, is going to be you assume the risk of getting hit by a golf ball. If you go to a baseball game and you get hit, you sit over in the foul area, and you get hit by a baseball, you've assumed the risk. If you go skydiving and when you're landing, you break your ankle, you've assumed the risk. If you go to a NASCAR and a tire flies off, I think you've assumed the risk. So that's a defense to negligence being sued. Superseding cause is a little more difficult, and I will ask you this in a multiple choice question. If I'm driving down the road and I hit your car and I hurt you and an ambulance comes, the ambulance has a wreck and you end up in a coma, you can't sue me for ending up in a coma. Something else happened to you after I injured you. That's a superseding cause. If there's something that unforeseen happens, an ambulance gets in a wreck, it relieves me of the responsibility. Okay, so again, you have a car wreck, you hit somebody, Jane goes to the hospital. On the way to the hospital, the ambulance has a wreck. That's a superseding cause, and you're not responsible for the damage after that. Comparative negligence, if you contribute to your own injuries, it's going to be held against you. So if you are driving down the road, you get hit, you're not wearing a seat belt, and you go through the windshield, what will happen is the jury will come back and determine how much you're entitled to. So let's say you're driving down the road, I'm texting, I'm not paying attention, I hit you. You sue me, but you're not wearing your seatbelt and you go through the windshield. The jury might come back and say you get $100,000. But they're going to say you weren't wearing a seatbelt, so therefore you contributed to 30% to your own injuries. So the amount you get is going to be reduced by $30,000. Okay? The Downs case, the one we just did on I-65, say that they found that the friends were held responsible and they had to pay the estate $100,000. The jury would decide how much Mr. Downs contributed to his own injuries by being drunk. So they might say 40%. And then he would receive $60,000. So if you do something to contribute to your injuries, you're not wearing your seatbelt, something like that, that's comparative negligence. Negligence per se, I just want you to understand this term. If you break a law or you do not do something you're legally obligated to and you hurt somebody, I can sue you under negligence per se, and it's an easier lawsuit for me. So if you are texting, I would sue you under negligence per se, and it's just an easier lawsuit for me. So I want you to be able to recognize what negligence per se is. If a house is built and the contractor does not comply with codes and the floor falls in, they would be sued under negligence per se. If you own a carnival and you don't have safety inspections and you were supposed to, and somebody gets hurt, you're sued under negligence per se. And it's just as me, it's a much easier lawsuit for me because you broke the law. You broke some legal obligation that you were supposed to undergo, and you did. Okay? All right, Tennessee has a tort reform law. We cap damages at $750,000. Did anybody watch the meningitis case? That actual case from Nashville, it would be capped at $750,000. So if Erin Andrews, if her peeping Tom had occurred after 2011, she would have gotten $45 million. She would have gotten $750,000. Now, the thing that I think is very wrong about this law is the jury's not told, ever. So you might sit on a jury one day and somebody gets killed, and you deliberate how much money they're entitled to, and you might come back and say $5 million. What's going to happen is the judge is going to say thank you, and then he's going to look at the plaintiff and go, you only get $750,000. This is very common. It's in most states. Now, there's a big controversy whether this violates our 7th Amendment because the juries aren't deciding anymore. We don't allow punitive damages either. So if there's a GM case, say in Nashville or in Tennessee with ignition switches, where GM knew that the ignition switches were bad and somebody died, they would be capped at about $750,000, and there's no punitive damages. So I just want you to be aware there's caps on damages, and you will never be disclosed that as a jury. It's illegal to be told that. Okay? And if you have a chance, I know, a lot of y'all didn't do the extra credit. The extra credit show that I posted, do you find it was interesting?
Heck yeah.
Did you know about compounding drugs?
No, I'd heard about it. I remember when it happened. It freaked me, and there was a thing on campus where a guy had gotten meningitis, and it was just like everybody was afraid of meningitis for like a month. And I had no idea that the FDA
That they don't regulate that.
that was disturbing.
The thing that was scary is a lot of it occurred down in St. Thomas. What it is compounding pharmacies are created for one prescription at a time. Like if you can't take a pill, you could take it to Reefsane and they would create a liquid form for you. Well, what was happening was these companies were mass producing products. And so what they would do, the FDA doesn't regulate any of that because they say it's one prescription at a time. So what was happening was this company, New England Compounding, would get, let's say, St. Thomas to order epidural injections from them. They would have to get a prescription for everybody, so they were going through the office directory and putting Bart Durham, Bart Simpson.
They were falsifying prescriptions.
Yeah, falsifying all the things, and they were mass producing them. But the FDA wasn't coming in and regulating them. They weren't making sure they were clean, bacteria buildup, created meningitis, people that were having epidural injections. There were 76 people that died and 700 that... And
their damages, their settlements were limited to
the caps.
$750,000. And you got like people with, medical bills, like they got families, and $750,000 is, considering what the company did. I mean, they put so many people's lives at risk. They murdered people. Of course, the CEO of the company, I guess he probably went to jail. I can't remember, but
nobody's been convicted yet.
They filed bankruptcy, and they funneled out all the money.
They took all the money out.
It was infuriating.
I got an epidural injection right around that time. And it helped my back, but I never knew that, like, you you don't know,
What year was it?
2013, I think.
yeah, you don't know when you get a pill or you go in the hospital if it's regulated by the FDA or not, because this whole section is not regulated at all. So what they're doing is these companies are setting up as compounding so that they're not regulated, and you as a consumer do not know where they're coming from. I didn't know that my epidural injection wasn't regulated by the FDA. You know, so it's a little scary, but it's a very interesting. It's 60 minutes. It's pretty interesting. All right, strict liability now. And I'm going to post this. If I don't do it in the next couple of days, remind me. This is a little study guide. And what I want you to understand is strict liability and negligence are apples and oranges. Strict liability is when you are held automatically responsible. I don't have to go through duty of care, breach of care. If you get hurt, I am held automatically responsible, okay? Workers' compensation is strict liability. If you are driving a car for your job, and you are clocked in, and it's for your job, and you are stupid, and you run a red light, you are still going to get work comp. It's automatic, it's strict liability. Well, there are 3 different types of actions where somebody can be held strictly liable. The first one, unreasonably dangerous animals. And this is on the PowerPoint too. I'll jump back over to it. I have a lion in my backyard. He bites your arm off. I am held strictly liable whether I have a sign saying warning lion or not. Okay? Now, they're trying to make pit bulls dangerous animals.
Yep,
If you've ever had an animal, you get 1 free bite. If you've ever heard that rule, you don't know that your animal is dangerous till he bites somebody. It's called 1 free bite. Well, if pit bulls are ever deemed to be unreasonably dangerous, then he bites somebody, you put a sign, you don't get 1 free bite. It's unreasonably dangerous, okay? Unreasonably dangerous activities, blasting. I've got some more. Toxic chemicals. So if you own a blasting company, you're very, very careful, but somebody gets hurt, you're going to be held automatically responsible. Okay? The third one is products, and this is a little different. If you meet the criteria of a strict liability for a product, first thing, you've got to be a manufacturer. Second thing, it has to leave the manufacturer in a defective condition, okay? And then it's got to create an injury. And the reason we make manufacturers strictly liable is they are mass producing products, and we want them to test and test and test.